Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Speed Street Podcast. It's been far too long since I feel like we've spoken to all of you, since we feel like we've shared a moment together. I am thankful to have you here. It's almost the new year. We are recording on the final day of the 2024 year. What a year it has been. We're going to look back a little bit at maybe some of the moments of our favorite moments from 2024. We did a little bit of a season in review, but maybe just chat a bit of generally about some stuff for 2024. But a lot of stuff went on in the holiday season. Some fun IndyCar moments that we have to look at. Maybe some fun IndyCar driver moments that I'd like to look at and maybe discuss and talk about for the future. As well as we do have a guest for starting off basically this show. I think will be the first show of 2025. We're going to have Oriol Servia on. Oriol Servia is currently, he's been pace car driving for the IndyCar series, but he has obviously done many IndyCar races in his life, in the Champ Car era and the IndyCar era. Lots of cool things to talk about, I think, with Oriol Servia. So I'm very, very excited to get to that interview, because I have a lot of respect for him, and I think he is a extremely talented driver who may not have got fully his fairest of shots in the modern IndyCar era, but really great guy. So excited to chat with him. And we had a great Christmas season, I hope, holiday season for everyone. Chase, how are we feeling? I saw your son now has a scooter, so I'm sure there's competitive activities going on there. How was the holiday season?
It's been great. The training for him taking on Joseph Newgarden on an electric scooter, I think, is probably going to serve him well. So he's learning a lot.
And if people aren't familiar with that reference, Joseph Newgarden told us, or we found out that Joseph Newgarden was a scooter racer.
I hope that they would be
familiar
by now. But yes, Joseph Newgarden was a scooter boy at one time. But yeah, we had a great, probably one of the best Christmases, I think, that we've had in a while. Santa was good to us at the Holden household. Not only, he got a new bike this Christmas. Right. So little guy got a new bike. He got a BMX bike. So I'm teaching him how to Matt Hoffman. We also, like I said, the electric scooter, that's a thing of its own. He got a ton of, he's been real big into baseball lately, like I've said. So got a ton of that kind of stuff, and could not help myself. I ended up getting him like one of those really big boxes, of cards. Okay. So he went to town on the baseball cards. So it was a good Christmas, and we got New Year's as well coming up. I'm getting ready to eat the black eyed peas, the cabbage. I don't know. Are you big into the lore of New Year's Eve food?
Not really. No, I'm gonna have a nice dinner date with my lady in Indianapolis. We're gonna do a very fancy dress type dinner. Last year we made like chocolate strawberries and like random stuff for New Year's. And I think maybe we're gonna do it again. I'm not sure, but for me, when I get to New Year's, and I don't know how people feel about this. It used to be hey, we're going to go out and get absolutely trashed and have a great time, right? With the boys, we're just going to go out and you're going to try, hey, you know what? Who's going to get kissed on New Year's? I don't know. That was a big deal. Hey, we're going to, maybe we find a date. I don't know what was going on.
They were more concerned with who's going to chug grenades, because I grew up in New Orleans.
Yes.
So it was very different. It was no kissing, all alcohol. There you go. So that's why I don't drink anymore.
Yeah, and I remember I had some great times on New Year's, but I couldn't be happier to just have a more chill night for New Year's. I am so excited to maybe just watch watch the ball drop. There's usually some fireworks in downtown Indianapolis, so that'll be cool. And I get to spend it with a lady who is wonderful, my lady Amy. So that's going to be a great time. And I just honestly just want to get into 2025, right? Like we got IndyCar racing ahead of us. We got all kinds of things. But yeah, back in the day, it used to be you never know what was going on. Everyone tried to dress up. It costs way too much money to get into every bar, where it's like usually you can just go and have a great time with your friends. So New Year's is quite a racket. But you know what? It's the end of the year, and it's time to celebrate 2025. So,
amen.
We're very, very excited for that. I'd like to go through a couple maybe items from the Christmas time that I saw, but first, this show, our final show before the winter, it came out sort of around when IndyCar announced all the start times for the races. So I'm not sure if you saw that, Chase, but the 2025 schedule was released and all the Fox start times were out. Now, again, I want to talk about this really quick because a lot of people had some problems. It's like, where are the night races? And I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
This is very funny, and I just remembered this. I had a dream like 2 nights ago that for some reason the sun set in Milwaukee at like 1 p.m. and the race ended up being a night race. I don't know why,
Could
but
be a
I for
sign,
some
dude.
reason was like, oh, it's awfully dark out here. I guess it's just going to be a night race. And so for some reason, I dreamt of a night race at Milwaukee. I don't
At 1
I don't know
p.m..
why I dreamt of this, but I am literally dreaming of this in December 2024. I'm dreaming of Milwaukee night races, and I don't know why. I think maybe it was an alien event. Maybe someone was doing something with the sun.
Could be
Maybe
a
it was a
solstice.
solstice.
Yeah.
Something was going on. But I dreamt that there was going to be a Milwaukee night race. Sadly, when I look at this schedule, the Milwaukee race starts at 2 p.m. Eastern broadcast time-wise. So, you know what? Probably not going to be a night race.
I don't even want to speculate on what that could mean. Like,
But
what
that
is
was
this
real.
dream?
I literally did dream about a Milwaukee night race. So
Connor clairvoyance. There he is.
But honestly, you know, and one thing that I don't know if people fully grasp, and we have to make people aware, like, look, these are the best times that we can get from Fox, right? Like, it's what else is going on that day, what else is going on that weekend. You know what I mean? We have to fight for the best possible broadcast window that there is, and people need to be exposed to IndyCar, right? So these are, I believe, these are all the times that honestly are the best possible scenario that we could get for our sport to be exposed to the masses. So I know we don't have a night race yet. The Iowa race starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, like the broadcast, we're getting there. We're tickling the night. But it's, you know, that's 4 p.m. Central Time, so it's obviously it's a late afternoon race, and you know it's in the middle of July, so the days last very long. But you know that'll be something that I hope in the future there is. You know, my personal thought on it is we need a night race. I mean, Chase, you know how exciting night racing is. I think it's something that is really important. But for now, like I think people still don't really realize that we have to establish this sport, you know, in a strong way this season, right? That we've talked about, you've heard us on multiple different shows talk about how important this season is. So maybe this season can set the stage for the next few years of like, hey, maybe there can be a night race. What do you think? I mean, I think we should have at least 2 night races.
It has to. I mean, you're spot on about we have to set the stage in 2025, and I mean this is the, you know, like, don't set the expectations like through the roof. Like, we're not going to directly compete with NASCAR more than likely. If we did, that would be fantastic, and that would mean that we're on a great trajectory to just blow records out the water. But what we have to do is really just be grateful. We've got these times set. We're kicking off this thing with Fox. Night races are super important, especially on ovals. I love me a good night race at Worldwide Technology Raceway. That's one of my favorites. Wouldn't
it be wild if we could do a street race, like a night street race? That would be hilarious. Like, Formula One obviously does it, but think outside the box.
I know a street race would be cool. Technically, could do a road course race. Daytona does have lights, but you know, hey,
a Daytona IndyCar race on the road course would actually be hilarious. We would be going far too fast, and you'd just take the rear wings off those things, but
it'd be a wild time.
It would be fun in theory. It'd be fun in theory.
It would be fun to see go down. I mean, maybe an exhibition at some point, but no, night races are so important, man. And I firmly believe that Fox is aware of that. We're just making do with what we have and putting this together. I'm sure that this is all getting put together pretty quickly as far as the times go and some of the logistical things, but the overall scope of what we're entering into has been very well planned, very well thought out. So I wouldn't sweat it much at all. Maybe your dream will come true, but one thing I will say is this, Connor, you made a great quote: "Tickle the night, Iowa, tickle the night." That needs to be a shirt. So,
yeah, we're who knows what'll happen? I mean, that's just my thought, and I think everyone agrees like that. They love seeing IndyCar racing under the lights. I mean, I grew up watching, the IndyCar racing that I enjoyed so much. Texas under the lights. Basically name any mile-and-a-half oval at night, and you're like, yep, lock me into my seat. I'm gonna be watching this one all night long. So there's that, but. I'm excited. Everyone's excited about Fox. I mean, the rumors and the not the rumors, but just the chatter in general, I would say, to let you know what's going on in the world. I think everyone is at a more excited level, and the anticipation level is quite high. So the pressure's on for Fox, I would say, because all of us are thinking, oh, we really hope that this is it. Like, this is our golden nugget. But I know a lot of the people involved in the Fox broadcast group and the Fox network side, and they're really good people. So again, I hope that type of stuff translates, but we'll see. We can only find out when we get into the new year, when we get into some testing. Maybe they're doing some stuff at test. I'm actually excited when we all go down to test in Sebring. Like, there's a lot of us going to be testing in Sebring in February, and maybe there's some Fox people down there. Hey, we're going to test out some cameras. We're going to test out some angles, some different things here and there that we can kind of mess with. I think that would be really cool. So we'll be able to let you know on this show, obviously, what's going to go down. But yeah, that's kind of really the only IndyCar news. There's no news. We still have 2 IndyCar seats that are left. The Dale Coyne Racing team. I did notice one thing. Now, I don't know if anyone else noticed this as well. And Chase, I'm not sure if you saw this, but my former teammate, Romain Grosjean, he did a little Instagram story where he was editing his bio, and it said IndyCar driver ? So I don't know if Grosjean was indicating that he is, Grosjean has obviously driven for that Dale Coyne Racing team before. It would kind of surprise me if he ended up there, but if he does have support, some sponsorship support, it's entirely possible. So, I mean, the options for that Dale Coyne Racing team are almost endless. Is it Rinus VeeKay, Romain Grosjean? That would be a really strong team. Is it Romain Grosjean and someone that we have no idea who it is? Is it an F2 driver? Is it someone from some other realm of the world? I'm not sure.
Is he trolling us?
Is it Jacob Abel? You know what I mean? Jacob Abel's been dancing around the streets a little bit with some funding behind him. Is he going to be a young Indy NXT driver like Jacob Abel? Who knows? So I can't wait. I think if we put an over-under on when is Dale Coyne going to announce his drivers, I'd like to raise my hand and say not in January. I'm going to say that Dale goes through January, and it's not going to be in January. But if it does happen in January, boy, would all of us be surprised. I think every single person in this listening to this show, anyone who's ever met Dale Coyne before, anyone who has followed IndyCar racing at all, and if you're new to IndyCar, well, this is Dale Coyne's favorite thing to do. He's going to make us wait till the week of the race before he tells us who his drivers are. So we'll see. But I'm excited to know. I mean, Chase, it's basically, there's not even any rumors going around anymore, which is actually really exciting because there's no like, oh, this driver thinks he's got the seat. It's like no one knows, which is kind of exciting.
It's kind of mysterious out here right now, Connor. I will say that. Like, there has not been a lot of IndyCar rumblings. And
no chatter over the winter,
No, it's been great to see, when we did our show talking about the social media stuff, there was some guys that stepped up big, and I'm sure we're going to discuss them on this podcast as well. But I want to get into that. With Romain, I would say this, like, who's to say maybe it's not just an Indy 500 seat if he's questioning, IndyCar driver. Who's to say, you really could just open it up to anything. At this point, I'm ready to just Pandora's box the whole Dale Coyne thing. Now, you wanted to set the over-under on this. I feel like Dale Coyne will probably announce, like, the week of St. Pete. Like, maybe a week before. You know what I mean? Or 2 weeks before. Like, he wants to get the news cycle started right before the beginning.
Yeah.
He cares about this
Get the juice flowing.
Yeah. So, big shout out to him. I can't wait to see who takes those seats as well. I can't wait to see to see what everybody does. Prima is another one I can't wait to see. I've seen a little bit of news on them a couple weeks back, but
they posted a picture of like sides of their cars. Like, can't wait to see what their cars look like. What are they going to go with? Are they going to go with cars that look like their F3 cars and their other team cars? I think so, because if I'm honest, I don't know who they have as a sponsor, right? Because they've got a lot of funding behind them. So they might just be the cars that are completely blank. And again, we've told you how hard it is to sell IndyCar right now. But a team like that can run those cars because the ownership is funding them. They've gone out and hired 2 drivers, which is the dream scenario. I wish every driver, that's what you want. You want a team like Prema. They came into the sport. They invested a ton of money. We're going to go hire 2 guys that we want.
Recruit your talent.
That's the dream. I am not in that scenario. We obviously have to raise, we've had to raise some sponsorship, and Stingray, brought a lot of sponsorship. But so I'm curious to see how either long that lasts or hey, maybe they show up and, all right, we got some more branding on the cars. We got some new sponsors. Who knows? Maybe they can bring some new energy, new business to the sport, but we'll see.
How's things with you and Stingray, by the way? I wanted to ask, have you talked with Stingray anymore?
No other progress other than what we mentioned on the last show. So I called him, talked to him, as I mentioned on the show before, and we're going to, next week, we're going to all be at the shop. We're going to start working. So it's going to be great. I think the people, I feel like I told this story. I feel like it's been a long time since the last episode, but I called young Stingray, had a great conversation with him. I'm not sure if I said this twice, then you're hearing it twice, but yeah, great conversation with Stingray. But I don't hide from anything. Everyone who listens to this show knows, you can't. This show is public, by the way. You guys can listen. Yeah. Anyone can listen to this, so I don't mind. And yeah, we had a great conversation. We're adults, guys. We're adults. We can work together.
Grown men.
We're very mature. We can be like, hey, it's all good. Everyone has said something about someone, and I don't care. And he doesn't.
Take him
He's
golfing.
like, we're just trying to be the best racing drivers we can be. Guess what? That's what we're gonna do. So
it's true. I think you should take him golfing, though, Connor. I think you should.
Golfing, all right, maybe. But let's talk about other things that we also happen on the internet. So I'd like to go through maybe some Christmas items. I think this is your guy too, Kiffin Simpson. Let's just talk about Kiffin Simpson for a second. I'm actually warming up to the idea of Kiffin Simpson.
I love this kid.
I think what he has done now I don't follow him, but I've clicked on enough of his tweets on the X platform that anything that he puts out is on my For You page. And I noticed he got an Acura NSX for Christmas. Now, my Christmas looked very different. I'm not going to lie, but we need drivers like this in IndyCar. Like, we need people, because I find it. I follow so many Instagram accounts. I feel like so many were like people that are probably wealthier than I get cool stuff, and I'm like, you know what? That's sweet, and so I think it. And he's actually not. He's kind of not really like a douche. Like, he's a nice guy, it seems like. So, hey, if you can be like a nice, rich guy, you know what I mean? And also compete and have a good personality. Hey, shout out Kiffin. And I'm glad you got a new car. Shout out, he's on the Honda guys. I'm a Chevy guy. But I just thought that was cool. I was like, hey, you know what? I've said, we all know maybe the driver levels in our series and kind of what's going on there. But I just thought that was funny. I was like, my Christmas looked a little different. I got a Ryobi drill. And I was like, heck yeah, I got a drill.
We really are grown men now.
Felt really
dude.
good about it. If you followed my social channels though too, I did get my garage boards from the Indy 500, which I thought was very cool. Shout out my family. I'm gonna have a collection of those eventually in my house. But yeah, it was just something I thought was cool. You saw Kiffin there, and shout out Kiffin, and there was a bunch of other drivers. Everyone's with their family. Everyone's hanging out.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that? I know you've interacted with Kiffin on the internet a lot.
Well, I do follow Kiffin. Kiffin and I follow each other. We're avid fans of each other. So we started this all out with Kiffin saving at the pump on the show. We call to action. He took action, dude. He took action. He was the first guy.
He got on the social medias, yeah.
So
he's putting out content.
Immediately, I'm like, this dude, I'm here for you, bro. Like, I got your back. Like, that's the way I'm gonna be. So, him getting that, like, I obviously had commented on it. I was like looking like a young Tony Stark's Simpson.
Tony Stark.
Yeah. So That's cool for him that he got that. He had his leg hanging out the door like he was like a Don. Like there's like that Drake lyric where he feels like Jules Santana leg hanging out the Phantom. So that was cool to see. So he hopped up out the bed. He turned his swag on Christmas Day. So we're proud of him.
Absolutely.
I'm proud of him.
Yeah, I love that.
Kiffin.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a great thing. We've got to see more more personality. Some of the drivers, some of the drivers have been, completely silent, but Joseph Newgarden's been doing a lot of cool stuff. He did some cool stuff out in LA with his IndyCar.
Really cool
that we can talk a little bit about. Yeah, Joseph's on it. And I will, for people who hate him, now again, we know that there's a lot of people who hate Joseph. I don't understand why, but that's fine. Everyone can.
I kind of do.
But I mean, people hate success too. I mean, I get it. But that guy is working his butt off for IndyCar. Like what he's doing out in the West Coast with Race Service, which is a really cool company that has done a lot with Formula One, and they do a lot with like Charles Leclerc, a couple of other Daniel Ricciardo. They've done a bunch of stuff with various drivers to kind of up their brands. I mean, we need that. We need people in Los Angeles. They did a cool event in Los Angeles with Joseph's Indy 500 winning car, a bunch of like influencers and folks kind of in that area who, again, no one in Los Angeles knows what IndyCar is. Like, no one is going to know what the details of our sport is. And so, that obviously we have Long Beach, and Long Beach is one of our best attended races, but think of how massive that community is. There's still such a huge group of people that probably will never hear about IndyCar unless it's kind of force fed to them through Race Service, Joseph. So that was really good.
I think Joseph's just coming for cars.
Yeah. So that's a huge, great thing. Shout out Joseph for doing that. But yeah, I think we're gonna get to real quick. We're trying to record this show in a bit of a time period, so we're gonna talk a little bit more about the holiday season. But until then, we're going to have an amazing interview with Oriol Servia. So let's get to the Oriol Servia interview before we come back and talk a little bit more about some holiday season activities and what we can look forward to in 2025. And then also the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week. So with that, let's get to our friend, a legendary race car driver, Oriol Servia. Ladies and gentlemen, this week on the show to begin the 2025 season of podcasting, we're very lucky to have a driver that is very talented, a driver that I have got a chance to race against in the Indianapolis 500 and some other races too, a driver who's also played a substitute role for one of the only teams that I have not substituted for, the Team Pensky operation. Oriol Servia has done hundreds of races in the open wheel racing series, whether it's Champ Car, IndyCar, very successful. He's got many trophies to his name, successful from the get-go. Let's just say you've been successful from the start. A man who's got a voice that is so unique that really I think it makes like young people cry in a happy tears because it's just like this guy sounds like an artistic major. He sounds incredible. Oriol Servia from Spain, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. And I know it was last minute, but you're a superstar. How you doing, my friend?
What an intro. After all these years, I don't think I ever had such an intro. I'm great. Great way to finish the year.
I love that. So, Oriol, I have a lot that I want to talk to you about because I think you came through the open wheel ladder system and the Champ Car Series, IndyCar. It's such an interesting time. Obviously, there was the split, and you were on one side, and then you ended up on the other side, and then everything was united. And you've got to drive some amazing cars. And even still, I believe that, if someone offered you an Indy 500 seat, like maybe tomorrow, you'd probably jump right back in that thing. And I think you could do a good job doing it. So kind of give us a little run through real quick, kind of high level of, what it was like for you to kind of grow up in the era that you did, getting to the top, how difficult that was, and kind of what it might look like compared to the road now to get to IndyCar.
Interesting. So the steps to get to IndyCar were never part of a big plan or a big roadmap, to be honest. I grew up, in Spain, racing go-karts. Raced 5 years in France, where I thought was my path to Formula One, honestly, under Elf, the French manufacturer, was sponsoring drivers. And just when I finished all their steps, they, of course, decided to quit Formula One. So then what do I do? And I came to do Indy Lights to the U.S., what I thought would be just 1 or 2 seasons. Somehow I realized, wait, the guy who wins the Indy Lights Championship makes it to IndyCar usually and makes a living out of this. Like, it was like,
Right.
this could be amazing. So that's what really started my professional career. I tried to take it as serious as I could, obviously. And to your point, I entered Champ Car after winning the Lights Championship in 99. Man, so long ago.
Great year. 99. I was 8.
You see? And to your point, it was during the split, where many drivers' careers kind of were in limbo because you didn't know what path to take. There were no sponsors. Both cities were fighting each other. It was very unfortunate. But from those years, great champions came out. Will Powers, Justin Wilson's were this, and I was in that mix. Dixon started also in Champ Car, right? I was in that mix, and I think it made us work really hard because the constant uncertainty of not just you as a driver, the team you were in, you didn't know if it was going to be around next year, right? Yeah. So, and anyway, that was what it was. Also, those years we had I think a perfect mix of ovals and non-ovals. Already in Indy Lights, I think I had 7 ovals on the schedule. That's what I see is a huge difference with young kids that come up today. Like, there's really not much oval learning they can do until they get thrown into the Indy 500 almost, So I was really lucky to get that school. I was also really lucky in my second season in Indy Lights. My teammate was Casey Mears.
Oh, yeah.
And he had Rick Mears as his spotter and constant driver coach. So I had probably the oval master of all times teaching his nephew. Not just anyone, but his nephew. I was there like, okay, So to your point, I think that's why I liked ovals right away, and the 500 came. I shouldn't say easy at all because I've never won it, obviously. But
pretty close though. Pretty close.
But it's the story of many of us, like yourself, right? Hopefully this year you get it. But
thank you.
I did learn from the best and the basics, and then that's why every time I jump in an oval, I feel at home, even if I grew up doing road courses, right, in Europe. So anyway, that was my path, and then I do still hold a record that some other driver is getting close to catching me on. It's not
Tell
most
us,
wins.
what record?
Most teams ever driven.
Oh, wait, you have the record?
I am at 14. I am at 14, and I think you're at 12 or 13.
That's hilarious.
Record.
It is. Honestly, I've been paying attention because I introduced myself when, as the guy with this record, because honestly, I think it says a lot about us, you and me. No, 2 things. One, how bad we want it, because usually if you're lucky to get the opportunity to get into an IndyCar, dude, you made it. And usually goes one way or another. You're either there 1 or 2 seasons, you don't get the results, or the sponsor leaves, the team shuts down. Okay, that was it. Dude, you had your shot, you made it. Now go do something else. Or you deliver, the sponsor stays, and you get a 3-4 year contract, you get the millions in the bank, and it's either one or the other. Our case is not the most usual, where opportunities keep coming up after something happened and you lost your right. Either because you put it together, a team decided, okay, I'm going to give this guy another shot. You find the sponsor. Every case is absolutely different. Someone gets sick and you get the call. But it says the 2 things, how bad we want it, and that when there is an opportunity and there's money, a team calls you, right? So also what that does, at least to me, and I'm sure it did to you, is because you never had the long-term contract, you always felt you're auditioning for next year, meaning you work so hard. Like, if you don't like the engineer, it's not about, I don't like the engineer. It's like, I don't care. I need to make this work.
Yes.
Like, I'm not going to tell Chip Ganassi next year, I'm better than I showed because I didn't gel with the engineer, right? You had to make it work. So that makes you work so hard. At least it's what I definitely felt at the end of my career I was better than at the beginning, not because of the speed, but because of the things you work hard on.
Oh, yeah.
From the driving point of view, like I hated hairpins. I had to work so hard at doing slow corners.
Hairpins. See, I think people would love to know that, though, because we try to get... I love the folks that send me messages like, hey, we just didn't know that, because it's something like a driver saying like, oh, hairpins were the struggle. They're like, well, they would have no idea. The fans would have no idea that would be a thing. So it's really cool to hear like, hey, these are what things that we struggle with as drivers, and we've tried to work over our careers at making these things better.
Constant work, like probably like any other art, like the painter, like,
Yeah.
So you spoke to Picasso at the end of his career. It's like, I was such a wanker at the beginning, And I worked so much harder at that little stroke.
Picasso and his little watercolors weren't looking that great at the beginning, huh? Yeah.
Watercolor guy.
It's an art, and like anything else, with practice and effort, you get better. And another thing that happens when you jump through many teams, like yourself, is you get you compare yourself to many other driver styles, other engineers, and I had honestly the best luck in the sense of, as teammates, I had Cristiano D'Amato in my rookie season, who became a champion.
Yep.
Then I had Scott Dixon, who became the GOAT.
Yep.
Then I had Sebastian Bourdais.
Very
at
good.
Newman Haas when he was at his prime with that car. And then I had Will Power, right? So I just, even if I was not getting the big contracts, I was able to compare myself and learn from these top guys. Like with Cristiano, I honestly learned slow corners. I would kick his ass 70% of the lap, and then I would lose 3/10 in the most boring corners, like, the fountain at Long Beach or whatever,
Wow.
And I was like, man, and then that makes you work hard. With Dixon, his consistency is like always. And you see that it's just not random why the guy is consistent. You see how he works. And then Bourdais, when Sebastian has a car that fits him, it's mind-blowing the speed he can carry into the corner. If the car doesn't fit him just right, he's still obviously amazing.
Yeah.
But you're like, okay, I can do that. But when the rear of the car is glued to the ground, he's usually described as a guy that likes understeer. He likes a car that the rear is glued to the ground. And of course, that means sometimes you have understeer. But when the rear is glued to the ground, the speed that guy carries into a 90-degree corner in a street race, you cannot describe it with words. I had to work so hard. Like, remember, I had my shot at Newman, my first shot at Newman Haas in 2005 when Bruno Junqueira gets hurt. I jump into the car, and I remember...
Great era of car, too. Great era of car.
They were so fun. They were so fun. Powerful, and they were beasts. And he was dominating the championship at the time, and I remember I did a deal with Carl Haas, and I'm like, dude, I'm sure I'm going to be within 3/10. I don't know if I'm going to beat Sebastian, but I'm going to be within 3/10. The first couple of races, I was 7/10 off. And at this point,
wow.
I'm already been 5 years in IndyCar. I think, I don't know if I'm the best ever, but I think I'm pretty good.
You know what's going on. Yeah.
7/10 off. And it's because his commitment, I had to work probably the hardest ever in my life because I didn't like the style of the car. But again, I had to make it work. That was another situation. If I had an off season, I probably would have liked to tweak the setup to my liking.
Yeah.
I jumped in the third race of the season. I had to make it work. And
exactly.
This guy is on pole, Oriol. If you're not a complete wanker again, you need to find a way to be within 2-3/10, and then, and then Will Power.
Yeah.
2008, I had Will Power, which, it's just the fastest man ever on IndyCar, right? Broke just Mario Andretti's record on pole positions. And I'm like, okay, I need to match this guy. And Will actually can make any car work. That's the difference. He has that level of commitment and Aussie craziness at every corner, no matter how the car behaves. He's a beast. So anyway, that's, you keep working at your driving, you keep working at all that, and that's my career.
Yeah. No, but that was, I honestly really appreciate that answer. That was really cool to hear just the differences in drivers and what you thought of each one. Because again, your teammates, when you listed through those, that's incredible. I mean, I feel like I've had a lot of teammates, and I've had a lot of really good teammates too. But I mean, I think that is the highest level of teammates maybe anyone's ever had in this type of open wheel series.
Yeah, I didn't make the millions, but being also for self-esteem, right? I'm not saying I was better than these guys at all, but I know where I stand.
Absolutely.
And that when you don't get the contract next year, at least you have the fuel inside that, hey, I know I can do this, right? So let's try again.
But also, I mean, in 2011, when you were on the front row at the Indy 500, right? I mean, that's no simple feat. That was such a competitive year that year as well. And the car, I mean, people went home. That was like hey, 100 years, it was going to be amazing. I'm kind of jumping around because there were so many things, but that is such a cool moment. I feel like to be on the front row at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Kind of let us know what that was like, and that era of car. Like, I want to talk about the really cool cars that were much faster and much awesomer, but the 2011 year, 100-year anniversary, big Indy 500 event. I mean, that was pretty cool.
It was super cool, and again, it was
Newman Haas, great group.
It was the last year of Newman Haas. We didn't know it was going to be the last year, but it was my third time at the team. We honestly didn't have a huge budget, even being at Newman Haas, but I had the most amazing group of people. Like, the one thing Newman Haas had is like the chief mechanic and the core group had been there 18 years. No joke, right? After many championships, from the Andretti's to Fittipaldi's to everyone, best engineers. So they were really good at optimizing a package, and my engineer was great at strategy. So we were able to honestly extract the most. We actually got to the last race of the season, the unfortunate Vegas, that we qualified also in the front row, where I was 14 points, but I was battling with Dixon for third, and I couldn't believe we're maybe beating Dixon and Ganassi, and we may be third in the points. Obviously, the race got canceled, and we know how that went. But it was a very successful year. I actually also witnessed the only time in history, in sports or anywhere, that we were able to rewind time.
Oh, tell us more. Tell us more. How we're going back in time?
People talk about Area 42 or whatever. No.
Yeah, 51. Aliens. Yep.
No. He's going deeper with 42.
Yeah.
Okay.
New Hampshire, baby.
Oh, yes.
There was a green flight thrown.
Oh.
And then apparently it never happened.
That's right.
It's like, to me, I'm not even saying it was the right or wrong decision to throw the
New
flag.
Hampshire call. Yeah, Chase, this might be new for you, but this was a big deal back in the day. Rain, oval racing, there were all kinds of stuff.
There were a couple of sprinkles. There were some sprinkles, and on ovals, you don't race in the rain, obviously. And and during the whole race, there were sprinkles on off, and but we never really stopped. And then we're going towards a restart at the end. I'm fighting with Ryan Hunter-Reay for the lead there. A restart before the same happened, and he got the lead. In this restart, it's starting to sprinkle. Some drivers are on the radio saying we shouldn't start. Some are typical story. Again, I'm not saying they should have or should have not started, but they did start. And you'll remember this because you've seen the famous willpower.
Oh yeah, the bird.
That's that restart. So they throw the green. I pass Ryan, and then there's a big crash at the back. Danica, Will, they all crashed. Many crashed. And then they decided that, you know what, we're going to go back in time. That restart never happened. To me, it's almost like...
Because you would have won that race then, essentially? That would have been a win.
I would have won that race. And honestly, that was the final nail in the coffin for Newman Haas. They're like, guys, we're here spending all our, money that sponsors don't give us, and you steal a race. It felt like you are at a soccer final... and the penalties, and the referee goes, beep, okay, you can shoot. You shoot, you score. You know what? There's too much wind. We're gonna reverse that call. I'm like, dude,
I love this. Yeah,
you whistle. So
I would be, if that happened to me, Oriol, I would be furious as well. That as a driver,
big risks for that restart. I knew I was on the line, warming up the tires. It's raining, and you know. So anyway, that was a great year, 2011. We had a great car, and we were close to the 500. We were close to many things, but hey, still 2011. I still, it's 2024. So much more that happened after, but it felt like it was a tough ending.
Yeah, and I've got other questions too, but I want to let Chase jump in here as well because I think he's learned already a lot by chatting with you, and I think it's just this is a great conversation, and it's actually I've learned more than I expected to learn already, so I can't wait to keep learning.
Oriol, I just want to say this. I don't know if anyone's ever told you. You got a great vibe. You got a great aura to you. I like that. Digitally, I'm experiencing that right now. So when I get to meet you in person, I'll be excited about that.
That's because he just got back from Vegas last night, so he's had a great time in Vegas.
That's true.
My dad's in Vegas right now, so you could have crossed paths at some point.
I should explore the digital. Unfortunately, I'm past the Tinder era, so I was never able to send my digital vibes to my ladies. But anyway, I'll take it.
There's going to be a lot of ways to do that. Big Web3 guys here, so we're figuring it out.
Love it.
But I did want to ask you one thing that fascinated me, just kind of learning a little bit about you and your life. You were one of the few drivers in motorsports that have a mechanical engineering degree. How has that education influenced you on and off the track in terms of how you've handled racing over the years?
I think it helped me
I
a
didn't
lot.
know that either, by the way. So congratulations on being educated.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it was a deal I had with my parents to start my career. I had to keep my studies up. And that's, and at least I honestly never thought I was going to be able to make a living out of driving. So I wanted to study. I wanted to be a race engineer for Ferrari at the time, But anyway, I never worked as an engineer. I never intended to engineer my cars. But because I know how engineers think, I always felt I was able to give them the information of what the car did in a way that they could maybe get to a solution faster or a better solution. And I honestly always really, truly love looking at the data and trying to find out what a click of rebound at the front did, and stuff like that. So I'm sure some years of my career, I went too deep into those areas instead of just focusing on improving my driving. Honestly, I was just thinking about it not long ago, like 2002, 2003, I didn't like how the car was behaving, and I was so deep trying to find out, and I should have just dude, that's the car, drive it,
Right.
But I love it, and honestly, it's given me, I think, a little better perspective of life. Like when you get into a sport and you dedicate so hard, like I see now with 15-year-old kids, that all they do is be at the racetrack, which is almost what they have to do to become as good as they need to be to succeed. But then you're like so like your view of the world is so limited. So in a way, I think I got lucky to do that, and now it gets me to work on some cool projects. I've been super lucky to have been working with Microsoft Research, developing AI tools, and we put together a collaboration with something you guys know really well, which is iRacing.
Oh wow.
Wow.
And I now have to spend time on iRacing because it's my job.
There you go.
So again,
nice.
I found a way while I was active to drive for a living, and now I can play video games a little bit for a living. So somehow it's helped me. But again, I've never really worked as an engineer or intended to.
I love that. That's really cool to know. I want to ask you about one specific substitution role that you played, because I was also there, and we were in the same driver introductions truck at St. Petersburg when Will Power got injured, and you got asked to step in at Team Pensky. I think that's one substitute role that I have not had, and Ganassi. So I don't know if I'm ever going to get to where I've driven for all the teams like you, because again, looking at your Wikipedia page, it's like, oh yeah, you're right. He's driven for all the teams, almost all of them, and it's very funny.
Ganassi. But to your point, not Ganassi.
Not Ganassi though. Yeah,
he's the only one left.
That's the mythical, the mythical team. But what was that situation like? Because again, very last minute. I mean, to suit you, I have pictures with you in our driver introductions bus. That was my rookie year, and Oriol's all of a sudden driving for Pensky. I mean, what was that operation like to step into? And obviously in the modern era of Indy cars, it's much different. The cars, we still had the aero kits then, so they were kind of cool. But just stepping into the Penske organization in Will Power's car, like what was that like? Like, because I think a lot of fans that are maybe newer to the sport would definitely be a little bit more familiar with that type of scenario.
I can talk about that, and I can talk about something I've never talked about before. But I feel
Bring it all on.
Between friends and someone
like
that someone that I know will understand that there's times to party and there's times to not party.
Yes.
I was
I think I remember. I know what you're going to say here.
I was in St. Petersburg only to close my Indy 500 deal.
Yes.
So I had a meeting there, I believe, with Bobby Rahal, and we closed the deal. And that's the only reason I was there. At St. Pete, I'm very lucky. I have a couple of friends that I've known for 20 years from the time I used to live in Miami, and I always stay with them. They're great people, and we only get to see each other once a year. So the night before, not Saturday but Friday, I arrived there and we drank 11 bottles of wine.
That's all right. Hey, we're celebrating Indy 500 ride. Hey, wine is good. Jimmy Vasser's got good wine. You know what I mean? You know Jimmy very well.
The next morning, I'm just at the track, really, really struggling to survive.
He's graped out.
And I get this call, Team Cindric. Oh, okay. And I'm thinking like they may need a spotter in turn one or something. And I go to meet with Team, and Team's like, listen, we have a situation. Will is not feeling too good. If it happens, do you think you could jump into the racetrack into the car straight on Sunday? And I'm like, well, I did pass my physical because, I've got it already. And I'm like, but I'm thinking, dude, you should be smelling alcohol coming out of my pores right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Team, I go to the gym every day.
You're ready.
I'm as ready as I'll ever be. And I'm thinking like, of course, the day that I have the shot at driving a Penske car and I can barely breathe,
Yeah.
So I'm calling Jackie, my wife. She's in LA. Bring me the helmet. They get the seat from Indianapolis. So that was already bad. I had just landed the day before from LA, so Pacific Coast time.
Oh, yeah. You're up against it. You're up against it.
I had to be Sunday, race day, at the track at 6 a.m. to do the seat fit.
That's right. You didn't get to do anything on Saturday. That's
Straight
crazy.
Sunday.
Yeah. Warm up, yeah.
For me, 6 is obviously 3. I had to wake up at 5, 2. Also, of course, my luck. Is as you know, in St. Pete, always falls into the daylight savings.
Daylight savings, yep.
Change. So for me, is 1.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, I slept. I believe the only time in my life I slept 0 minutes. 0 minutes that night. 0 minutes. I was in bed at 9, but I couldn't sleep. For me, it was 6. And the nerves of getting in a Penske car the next day and Jackie driving the helmet. Anyway, I get to the track, 0 sleep. I jump in the car, warm up. I'm P7, full tanks, all tired. Yeah. I was P1 in the section, in the twisty section. And I remember Dave Faustino's looking at me like,
all right.
Like, are you sure we're full tank, right? So anyway, sometimes the body reacts when you need it. It's there. I honestly...
11 bottles of wine is the race day recipe.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
I can only say I think is all the hard preparation, all the hard work.
Yes.
Before
your mind was right. Yeah.
Before that. But anyway, it was a crazy... And the race was looking great. I had to start last.
I started right next to you. Yeah. I did not qualify well.
And I was P6 when there was a big melee in turn 3, whatever, and I got caught. But it was close to a cool story. But yeah, the Penske organization is everything you dream of. Anything I needed, it was like this, and the car had it, and the guys everything was amazing. It really was. The car was great. I mean, obviously that's why I was fast. Will had put it on pole on Saturday. So the car was amazing.
Yeah, I got to fight Montoya most of that race because I eventually took the lead of that race because we pitted early, and Montoya was very fast, and it was one of those situations like, man, I thought we had a decent race car, but like looking at Montoya's car, I was like, and Pagenaud too. Pagenaud was up there also at the same time. Oh my gosh, but it's fun to race with those guys. I mean, again, great teammates, right? Great teammates.
Absolutely. And when you go to a team like that, same happened to me when I went to Newman Haas. When they beat you, you feel like, they're probably beating me because they have a special parts and whatever.
Oh, yeah, no.
Honestly, most of the time, it's just, they just are able to hire the most talented engineers that work the hardest. The car work, it's perfect. And it's just everything super optimized. Like, there's no other secret. Like, it's more hours looking at data than anyone else.
It's really hard to win races, apparently. But they will do whatever it takes to win. The one thing that I know that for sure Ganassi and Penske have is, and I've heard this from people that have worked there, it's like if they go to somewhere else, it's like those teams, it doesn't matter what it is. If it takes that to win, that team is going to do it no matter how hard the work is. And that's got to be visible when you're there. It's got
it is.
It's incredible. Okay, I think a lot of people love hearing about some of the cars that we still wish were around, right? So the Champ cars, when you were talking about 2005, 6, like, and even the DP01, like, I got to drive, I think, your DP01.
That is the car.
That's the one. So I got to drive that and I believe I told you about this, at Putnam Park that one time. Still one of the most incredible experiences of my whole life, getting to drive that in the KV colors, which I think was your car. Was that your car, or the one that Yeah. So
the silver blue.
Yes. Was that still your favorite car that you've driven, or what's kind of your favorite era of Champ Car IndyCar?
That is the best car, period, I ever driven in terms of downforce, power, stopping power, and also for the teams, the cost. It was a really well thought car. It was unfortunate it was like 07, just again, finally the two cities got together and it wasn't really ready for the ovals, or at least that was the excuse. So we only raced 1 year, that car, or two, but it was the best car I've ever driven. Honestly, still to today, in terms of, again, weight, power, and everything else. It was amazing. But my rookie season in 2000, when you're going through the ladder system and you go usually from a F3 to F2, whatever, you go from 200 to 400 horsepower or whatever, right?
Yes,
Before each test, you're like, man, this is going to be 400 horsepower.
What's it going to feel like? Yeah.
And you jump in the car, and like, oh, okay, it's fast, but I thought it was going to be a little more. You're like, a little disappointed. The first time I tested a Champ car in 2000, I remember actually, the first time it was Putnam Park also, but the first proper test was at Sebring. And I remember, forget about even just like out of the corners, it was a beast. I mean, they had so much boost and no traction control. But I remember going into the straight line and you just keep pulling gears. It was still sequential.
Yeah.
And every time you pull a gear, it was still like, whoa. Your mind wasn't prepared for such acceleration, constant acceleration. And it was amazing, to the point, as I said, I loved ovals. I thought I was ready. The first oval race is Brazil. And I qualified. It was a very big field. We were like 26, 27 cars. I qualified 15. I actually outqualified Damata, my teammate. We had Toyotas. They were not the best. So I'm like, I'm feeling good. And I actually qualified right behind Gilles de Ferran on a Pensky car. And Gilles was already like super champion, super Gilles, a guy we all already respected so much. And we're going towards the green flag, and I'm right behind him. And just as he starts to go on power, it gives him like a little wiggle.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, come on, Gilles. And I haven't even finished the thought. Come on, Gilles.
Wham.
I get the same wiggle, but I'm on the wall. Lab one, Brazil.
Oh,
I'm like, oh man.
Too much power.
Next race.
Yeah.
Motegi, Japan.
Yeah.
Pack everything, containers, go to Japan. My rookie season. I mean, I don't even, am I going to be around for a while? Start of the race, Oriol warm up the tires. I don't care about the start. Make sure. There's actually, I remember Michel Jourdain passing me in the left. Woo! Boom! First lap.
Oh my gosh.
The wall. And actually, when you watch the best movie ever made, again, Driven.
Yes, great film.
Yeah.
Were you in Driven, Oriol? Were you in Driven?
You invented the quarter trick, didn't you?
I'm proud to say one of the crashes that they use is my crash in Japan.
Oh, really?
So
That's hilarious. Not hilarious, but that's
Oriol
wild.
Servia, he's there.
But that just tells you, like, those cars, the boost was just like unbelievable. The amount of power you would get at once, and it had a delay. And again, you thought you had the tires warm. Forget it. It was
That's
it
incredible.
was its own art. Yeah.
Yeah, Chase, I want to let you get another one in here for Oriol because I have more as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of take it back to what we were talking about before. Or I'm a big AI nerd, like big.
Okay.
And so hearing you talk about working on some tools right now is obviously kind of exciting for me to hear. But aside from that, I kind of wanted to see, like, is that something that you can discuss what you're working on? And I wanted to know what your thoughts were with your background and with what you're currently doing. Where do you think things are headed for the future of racing with not battery powered but gas powered race cars?
Dude, the AI planet is so amazing, right? And honestly,
Yeah.
I got really lucky. I started to work with Microsoft Research 2.5 years ago. Microsoft has had a sponsorship deal with Alpine, the Formula One team, for over 10 years. And they were looking at helping them with some AI because Formula One teams use a lot of AI already.
Right.
And honestly, I got really the stars aligned in the sense that I met the president of Microsoft Research, used to race, knew my career, and he's like, Oriol, I have the 1,400 best researchers in the planet in AI. They know nothing about racing. We're trying to come up with tools. Can I hire you? I'm like, okay.
Sure.
And honestly, that was 2.5 years ago that AI was still not as
nowhere
common
near
word
where we are now.
as it is today. Like, even when I studied engineering, there was not even a subject on AI, right? So it it forced me to have to go deep and try to learn as much as I could. And it's the wave then of AI is just, I've been seeing it, and it's mind blowing. And it's moving even faster than we realize. Like, it's amazing. I don't think, in terms of how is it going to affect racing, it's going to improve systems, it's going to improve cars, it's going to improve strategies, it's going to improve car design. But even if we create the best AI driver ever, which we could, and I'm sure we will for many reasons, we still watch humans play chess each other, even if we have machines that are better at chess, because I think we will always appreciate seeing another one of you doing something you cannot do or doing it better and stuff like that, right? So in terms of how, I don't think it's going to really butcher racing. It's just probably going to help it do it better, explain it better. I honestly feel in general in racing, we fail to, not just the broadcast, during the broadcast, they do what they can and they do a great job. But I feel like people that watch soccer or football know so much more what's going on in terms of a strategy or the work behind the scenes. It's one of the, honestly, I believe like the Netflix show has shown people that is more than just showing up on Sunday and driving fast cars around hot chicks, right? That you can see that there's a lot of work, and that's what I think we fail to sometimes explain in racing, and I think AI is going to find ways to tell the story easier so people can digest it and understand it.
I completely agree. Yeah,
that's good to know. I want to ask a little bit about A14. So I don't know if people really know, but you work with Fernando Alonso, obviously fellow countryman. Can you tell us a little bit about A14 management? You guys are working with young drivers. You guys are working with some stars of the future from Spain or anywhere in general?
From anywhere. A14 is a driver management company that Fernando and two of his buddies started 2 years ago only, honestly. It's pretty new
Very
company.
New, yeah.
I think Fernando was in a position where he would get many parents asking him, hey, what should my son do? And as you know, it's so tough. Like, racing has gotten so expensive, man. I mean, I've because
Trust me,
I
know.
started working. But even the ladder series, like Formula 3 is $1.5 million, Formula 2 is $3.5 million. Like,
crazy.
and you get no exposure. How are these kids supposed to get those budgets? So when you're a father that somehow you're lucky to either you're wealthy or you have the sponsorship for your son, it makes sense to try to be managed by someone that knows the sport, either to help your kid make less mistakes, or negotiate a better deal with the team, or again, guide the career, right? So Fernando saw the opportunity to help those kids. He was very close to a couple of his buddies. One of them has done driver management for 15 years. He's a gentleman, Alberto Resclosa, and his cousin Alberto. So they started, I think we have 14 drivers. They needed someone in the U.S. I've obviously been here now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I've been in the U.S. more than not.
That's crazy.
In my life.
Yeah.
And I know them well. And honestly, as you know, I drive the pace car still in IndyCar.
Yep.
I'm there every weekend. And it had been in
you know
my
what's
head
going
already.
on. Yeah, you still have good relationships with everyone too, all the teams, because you've driven for them all.
I did for them all. And I honestly, as we said earlier, I worked really hard to get better. And I always felt I can mentor a kid that is worth, mentoring. So anyway, I just started with them 3-4 months ago, but I'm super excited. I think there's a lot of people we can help, and there's a lot of talent that we can bring to the top. Also, I think they do it really well. They're very strong in Europe. Hopefully, we start strengthening the U.S., and then it creates a perfect channel. If you remember Montoya, right? Montoya was in Formula One, led to Ganassi for 2 years, back there. Even a kid, luckily that we managed Gabriel Bortoleto, who just won Formula 2 and got a ride with Audi. Great. But imagine if he didn't get the ride with Audi.
Where do you go?
Yeah. IndyCar is perfect, right? So it's good to have the pipeline, I think, communicating both. We'll see where we go. Who's your manager, Connor?
Well, I don't know if you guys are open to it, but no, my manager is Andrew Stallings, does a great job. I can't afford to pay anyone, though, because, actually I do pay Andrew, but boy, it's hard to know who the right manager is, honestly, especially in a world where, like you mentioned, I don't have a giant pool of cash to go to be like, I'm going to go and pay these people to find us more. It's very hard as a driver, unless you have this either investor base or something behind you, especially when you're coming through the ranks. I was very lucky to have, I had Jerry Forsyth who helped me out for a little bit. And then, once I got into it, then I won the scholarship money. But if we didn't do that, there's no way that I would have made it anywhere, because you don't have, a lot of drivers do have something to fall back on. Like, hey, we do actually have $1 million that we can either pay this person to do that, to go find more. And then who puts it in the right place? You know what I mean? So it is really hard as a driver, I think, to know, and even when I have established myself now, who's going to be that guy who makes it happen for you? Who is the best person to make it happen?
Yeah, that's another story. Again, when we're talking about changing teams, it would be cool if someone ever was able to record through the years.
Oh.
I probably done 500 PowerPoints in my life trying to get a sponsor. I'm very good at PowerPoint.
Deck guy, marketing deck guy.
Yeah.
No, and I hated it at the beginning, but at the end of the day, most actually sponsorships in racing are business to business deals, right?
Yeah.
And you hate it, but at the end, hey, I'm talking to the CEO of FedEx with this other
we've
oil
even
company.
talked about doing B2B deals. I've talked to you about people that you've worked with. I mean, I don't think people realize how many drivers have actually either coagulated on their own relationships and trying to say, hey, we both need this to work so we can both go racing. So let's figure it out.
These guys that owns 30 dealerships. I have this oil company. What if we put them together? Honestly, you have to be creative. And so when you have proper management, that helps. And also that helps the driver focus on what she should be focusing, But it's tough. It's tough. I had many managers through my career, and I've also learned the good and the bad. So no, it's
That's
an
awesome.
interesting space, and for me, it's a good. Again, to your point, I still think if someone calls me to get into the 500, right? I keep saying I want to be the oldest guy to win the 500. So
no, I mean that's the question. Would you do it? Hey, if you found if your AI work and if Microsoft wants to be your
yes, but. But only if I felt was a car
good
that
situation.
had a chance. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a Pensky, but the problem now it's not a problem, but it is a consequence of having 28 full-time cars.
Yeah.
But back in the day, you had 20 cars that did the full season. Then, and the 500 is always 33, right? So it meant that most teams that had 2 cars would add a third car.
Yep.
So you could still get many good one-offs. Now, when you have 28, you only need 5 more for 33. One is Andretti is already allocated. Marco, pam. There's only like 2 cars, and whoever's got a budget, there's no good car. So honestly, I don't even try, but I would.
Yeah.
in case that doesn't happen, I feel very happy doing this job. I love that. Mentoring, being still at the racetrack, and I like being in the competitor side. The one thing I've been missing driving the pace car, which I like, and I'm still going to do this year. It's I don't like leaving Sunday without knowing if I've done a good job or a bad job. But a pace car, if you do a bad job, you're going to see it on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Really bad.
Yeah, look at NASCAR. Look at NASCAR at the championship this year.
By the way, I keep saying, like, every pace car driver has crashed at some point. I haven't yet. It's one of those jobs people only hear when you screw up. But my point is, you leave Sunday like, okay, I feel like a little bit of a bureaucrat. I done my job or whatever. So,
you got that driver energy still. You got that driver fire a little bit still.
A14 brings me hey, what can we do better next weekend? So
I love that. Well, man, I honestly, this has been a great conversation. I don't want to take up too much of your time because you woke up early for us. I'm sure you got to go back to sleep or try to figure out what's about to happen in the day. But
this man's about to grind.
Man, yeah, this has been an awesome conversation, and there's still so much more we could talk about. So maybe we'll have you on another time. Maybe after we'll have you as a pre-Indy 500 guest to see what you think. Give us a Indy 500 prediction. Before we go, though, I like to ask random people or everyone, give us your top 3 in no particular order finishers for the Indy 500 this year. Top 3, no particular order. Give us 3 right now. Off the top of your head.
Dixon.
Power.
All right, that's easy. These are the house favorites already. I don't know if you saw Power's car last year, but it was a battle. He was struggling out there.
And I'd like to think of a rookie or a youngster that could surprise people. I mean,
all right,
you're due.
Thank you. But that's all right.
And honestly, I think you've learned from the best at the 500. You make me proud every time I see you 3 wide in turn 3.
Oh yeah,
outside.
I learned that from you. We
talked about it. I'm not saying the only one that did it, but I did it a lot. And so I think in your case, I listen. Your team has been putting good cars at the 500
for sure.
So you could be the surprise winner. But a young guy who could be a young. Malukas, the Foyt car has been running well. Yeah. So he's going to be there, right? He could be a surprise there.
There you go. That's a good top 3. That's solid. We'll take Malukas, Power, and Dixon. That's a good one. I like that. Oriol Servia, we appreciate you, my friend. And IndyCar fans will be able to see Oriol probably at all the races doing pace car stuff. So say hello to him and talk to him. He's a great human being. We appreciate you, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me. Always good times with you.
Nice meeting you.
Awesome.
Nice meeting you, Chase. Okay.
Well, folks, that was a tremendous conversation. I really hope that you enjoyed that one. I could have talked to him for another hour. I mean, there's still so much. I'd love to ask him, what he thinks about, the IndyCar series moving forward. But man, Oriol had some great stories for us, and Oriol has lived quite a wild life. He's had so much success, I believe, and he's driven for some of the best organizations and had some of the best teammates, like you mentioned. So that tremendous conversation. And he's an AI guy, apparently, too, just like you, Chase.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm gonna be nerding out with this dude. That's what we're getting down to right there. Like that alone, I love it when I can have questions planned for something, and then I immediately just it all goes out the window, and now we're talking about that. So finding that out about him, and then really just kind of learning about some of the big moments that he's been through. He brought up Will Power's double bird and how whole race weekend. I think I did a little bit of research on that as well, but I didn't know that was the same race that Will Power did that in. And then his story of just dogging it after 11 bottles of wine, like you're talking. Those are the stories that make racing what it is. You know what I mean? That's hilarious. The stuff, the untold stories. So I don't know.
Absolutely
He's got a
incredible.
great personality. I like that guy.
Yeah, that was just a fantastic conversation. So that it's a perfect way to start the year, honestly, and I hope you folks enjoy it. I want to get to another quick item before we get to the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week. But I wanted to say shout out to Kyle Kirkwood and Logan Sargent.
Yes.
Florida boys. They're doing like Kiffin Simpson, doing the off season right. Maybe not necessarily getting supercars for Christmas, but taking private planes to islands. Now, that is what IndyCar drivers should be doing. Now, Logan Sargent, obviously former Formula One driver, former guest of this show, even more importantly. Shout out to them for just being cool, honestly. Like that.
Living
Like,
life.
we need cool people in IndyCar. Kyle is that guy right now. Maybe Logan Sargent eventually becomes an IndyCar driver. Right now, he's going to do some, European Le Mans Series racing, some sports car stuff, apparently. I'm not really sure. At least I think he is. Logan, great guy. Kyle, great guy. Dalton, Logan's brother, great guy as well. So that looked like an awesome vacation, and good for Logan for putting it out to his 1 million Instagram followers, which is crazy. Maybe Kyle, we're getting Kyle more followers. Boom. We're going to get some of the Logan Sargent crowd following Kyle Kirkwood. Now IndyCar's getting maybe more than 1 million viewers per race. Let's hope so. But I think that's cool. We need more drivers on private planes doing cool stuff on islands. You think so?
Big things in general, you know what I mean? Like
that's what all Formula One is doing.
That's the way. More, I mean, like you played golf when you were out in Vegas with who was it, Lance?
Lando and Carlos, yeah.
So there
but
you go.
These guys, I mean, talk about off-season vacations. I think it's tremendous.
We're just slowly pulling all the F1 drivers to IndyCar. That's what we're gonna do.
Maybe, or at least they could be fans. It'd be nice if they could just be fans. That'd be sweet.
Bad too. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap up the show. First of the year. Very excited for everyone to listen to this one. But let's get to the Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week.
Greatest event of its kind that's ever been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. Who will make up the field?
This week, we've got a driver who only did 2 Indy 500s. I like finding a driver that's only done 1, but we went to the 1928 Indy 500. The 1928 Indy 500 won by Louis Meyer, of course.
Great year.
The 20th place finisher, top 20 day, for Sam Ross. Sam Ross, I have not heard this name before. He did the 1928 Indy 500 and the 1931 Indy 500. Again, zero information on the Wikipedia about Sam Ross. Apparently lived quite a long life, though. Died in 1980, age 79. 2 Indianapolis 500s, and that's all I got on him. So if anyone knows more about Sam Ross, feel free. But we know that he has a best finish at the Indianapolis 500 of 15th. And 1928 was his rookie year. 1931 was his last Indy 500. So shout out Sam Ross. We learn something new every day.
I'm a big fan of Stan Ross. He was He was a Milwaukee Brewers player.
Okay.
They also called him Mr. 3000, but he only got to 2,999. Also, not a real person. Was played by Bernie Mac in a movie.
All right, there we go. Yeah. Well, folks, we appreciate you. Honestly, if you get to this point in the show, share it with someone else. Please let us know what you think of it as usual. We hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the YouTubes. Give us a rating on the stuff, all the channels of the YouTubes and the Apples and the Spotifys, whatever it is. Please let us know what you think. I thought this episode was a lot of fun. Talking with Oriol, I hope you guys learned a lot. And we're going to have some cool stuff coming. There's going to be hopefully more news dropping now that, we're into January. I'm going to be doing a seat fit here very soon. Me and Stingray, maybe we're going to have some conversation. Maybe we even have Stingray on the show. Who knows? I think that would be a funny one. So anyway, appreciate you guys for listening. We'll see you next week or whenever we see you next on Speed Street. Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.